Good morning and welcome to the 15-minute Chassidus. It's only 15 minutes, but I hope that's in quantity. I hope it permeates the whole day in a lot of quality. We're learning the Maamarim, Vatetetzavatavshim Aleph. We're holding by Ois Tes. In this Ois, the Rebbe is going to explain that there are two times, two levels, two aspects of the Mesiras Nefesh that the Yidden had. Number one, at the time of Purim, and we'll see later how it is in our generations. In the time of Purim, under the Gzeira, before the Nes of Purim, there was Mesiras Nefesh. The Yidden were living under the Gzeira of Haman. Then there was the Nes of Purim. What happened then? They were still servants to Achashverosh. They still were in Golus, hadn't built the Beis HaMikdash. However, they weren't under the pressure of the Gzeira of being killed. So there's two stages. So too we'll see that there's in the time of the Friedrich Rebbe's Maamarim, 1927, they were under the persecution from the communists. And today we're living in a freedom where there's abundance of physical needs that we have, abundance of ruchnistic opportunities also. So two different levels and types of Mesiras Nefesh. One was under persecution, and one where there's the freedom to express yourself as much as possible. So, oistes v'hinei hakosu v'kibul haYehudim eis asher heichelu la'asos. This pasuk of the Megillah that we quoted before, from the Friedrich Rebbe's Maamarim also, that pasuk is speaking about b'pashtus bazman shalei achrei Nes Purim. After the Nes of Purim, the Yidden accepted upon themselves this which they had begun earlier, which refers to Matan Torah. By Purim, they accepted the commitment to Hashem. This was after the Nes of Purim. That's the story in the Megillah. V'yesh lema the mashakosah b'Maamarim the pirish v'kibul haYehudim eis asher heichelu la'asos hu shebemei Achashverosh kibul ma'asher heichelu b'Matan Torah. And this is the Friedrich Rebbe explains in his Maamarim, the pasuk that the Yidden accepted upon themselves in the time of Achashverosh. This they began by Matan Torah, who gam lefi pashtus hakosov shebekibul megeim hayoel achrei Nes. This is on the simple pshat in the pasuk in the Megillah that it was after the Nes. And according to this, this is that the Yidden accept upon themselves. But they began by Matan Torah. There's two things. At the time of the Gzeira, that was when they accepted upon themselves Mesiras Nefesh, and this the Friedrich Rebbe explains in the Maamarim too. And the Kabbalah of serving Hashem that they took upon themselves after the Nes of Purim. And this second level, and this was a deeper and greater level of acceptance of Hashem in their lives with a different type of Mesiras Nefesh. It was greater than even at the time of the Gzeira. And this we'll see soon. And so too you have in the time Kosus Lamoir that were explained that in the time of Golus brings out the essence of the Neshama. That through Kosus, that through the crushed feeling that Yidden have in the time of Golus, this brings out Lamoir, the etzem of the Neshama. The Shnei Inyanim b'zeh. There's two Inyanim. One, Kishi Yisrael nimtzayim b'matzav shel kosus mitzazeh sheyesh them gzeiros al kiyum Torah mitzvahs. This that Yidden are in a situation that they're crushed, in Yiddish subrochen, they're broken hearted because there are decrees against Torah mitzvahs. K'moshe bizman Amir Maamarim, like it was in 1927 when the Friedrich Rebbe said his famous Maamarim. And through this you come to the Moir, the essence of the neshama, through their Mesiris Nefesh. That's one state, both under the Gzeir of Haman before the Neis of Purim, and another example in 1927 under the communist rule. There's another aspect of Kosis L'Moir, when the Yidden find themselves in an expansive mode. When you have expansiveness in Gashmis, there's plenty of Gashmis, and in Ruchnis also. In Gashmis, there's plenty of availability for Torah mitzvahs. It's not that it's hard to go to get a pair of tefillin. It's not that it's hard to get a lulav and esrog. In other countries, especially under communist rule, very difficult to be a sheikhet, to be a male, to be a malabed in a cheder. Or even the times of by Mordechai, they had to have this huge dedication in the face of the gzeir that was hanging over their heads. Now, today, we don't have the same level of poverty as the Yidden had back then. People died. They didn't have food. It was freezing cold. They didn't have heat. The Begashmis were in a totally different situation. And Baruchnis, there's so much availability of learning Torah that with freedom in Jewish schools, or like we have here on the internet. So there's Harchava Begashmis and Baruchnis. Plenty of availability for Yidden to learn Torah and do mitzvahs in relative comfort, especially as opposed to the times when they had extreme poverty in Russia under communist rule, where Yiddishkeit was being stamped out. And the Ella Shem Nimtzon Begolus. But the only thing is, we're in Golus. But al derech Hamatziv Shahayla Achrei Neis de Purim, similarly as it was after the Neis of Purim. Shel Yehudim Haysa Oyer v'Simcha v'Sasin v'Ikar. There the Yidden had light and joy, extreme joy and beauty. That the Oyer v'Simcha v'Sasin v'Ikar. It's the same pasuk that we say by Havdalah from the Megillah. That there was that was bepashtus v'gam beruchnis, and also in ruchnis. That simply it was a happy time for them, and there's very little holding them back from learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. Even more so than their own personal situation is shegam base Haman nitn Esther. The house of Haman was given to Esther too. So they had this whole turnaround of that which was totally negative became within their control in a very positive way. Then they also had the Ma'ale V'Sapcha, taking all the negativity and turning it into something which is very positive. So this was the Begashmis and Baruchnis in the highest level that they had after the Neis of Purim. However, but we are still servants of Achashverosh. That was a problem. Didn't have the Geula Shlema, didn't have the Geula, the base of Mikdash, and not the Geula Shlema of Mashiach. So even though there was expansiveness, Gashmis and Ruchnis, Torah and mitzvahs were able to be done, there was not a decree anymore against their physical life, and all the negativity of Haman was given over to them. But the Yidden were crushed, and still there's an aspect of crushing, being broken-hearted, that they were in Golus. And this that the Yidden feel that they are crushed, that they're in Golus, even though there's a tremendous amount of availability of Torah mitzvahs, and physically they're all okay. In this situation, this also brings out the essence of the neshama. The next paragraph. This that the Yidden are broken, crushed, that we have this feeling when we're in Golus. Even when you have an abundance of physical needs and the availability in Ruchnis to be expressive as much as one would want. So what's the problem? Well, there's no Gzeiras, We've got everything we need. The Jewish schools are available. There's plenty of kosher food that's available, and plenty of variety of which shul to go to. So there's what's being crushed. What's the problem? So here we come to a very, very deep and special inyan that the Rebbe is bringing out in this Maimer. Ki retzoyne hamitish kol echad mi Yisrael, because the inner will and true will of every Yid, hu she'iyeh gili elikos, there should be godliness revealed. Gili elikos means godliness should be revealed in the world. And to the extent no place should be void of godliness being revealed. And that's what the inner core of what a Yid's looking for. And that's relevant, that's negeya, that's relevant to his very essential being. That becomes his total identity. Therefore, shebezman hagolus ein meir gili lekush shemoi shoy bezman habayis. And therefore, this that in the time of Golus, it's not shining the godliness that was shining in the time of the base of Mikdash. That's the case. So befrat kishim mizbeinim mizeh shomer Hazal. This is the Chazal tell us in the Gemara. Kol mi shalei niv the base of Mikdash b'yomav. Anyone in that the base of Mikdash was not built in his days. It's as if it was destroyed in his days. And so this, that we don't have the revelation of godliness that there was in the base of Mikdash, that you would feel Hashem and feel the higher than nature energy that there is in creation and of Hashem. In the mizeh atzmai is there in ganzen zertreißelt, and this becomes completely broken, shaken up. Zertreißelt is a Yiddish word. Kosis, that's the word kosis. Broken, crushed, zertreißelt. It doesn't know what to do with himself. V'gam shehu b'dargi naila b'yoser shemeila etzay gili elikus b'dogmas a gili shayah b'anabayis. Metzah, you're talking about a Yid. He's on a very high level, and by him there's kedusha that's shining through that there was in the time of the base of Mikdash. Is mikol mokim mizeh shebeklolos ha'olam ein meir gili, since in the whole world this is not shining, is mochach shegam a gili shemeir etzloi hu gili mugbal, that's shining by him is a limited revelation of godliness. And told the story that there was in Yerushalayim, after Mendel Haradaka had moved to Eretz Yisrael from Russia, and in the late 1700s, and he was learning. There was somebody who blew shofar out in the street. They all came running and saying to him, "Hey, Rebbe, we heard the shofar. It must be Mashiach coming." So he closed his sefer, went to the window, stuck his head out the window, and said, "No, Mashiach's not here." So one of the explanations is because with him, he felt the godly revelation similar to that of Mashiach being. So he had to see what's doing outside in the world. You have tzaddikim that live here in this world, and they connected to Hashem, and they feel the Hashem which is higher than a time and place. They feel godliness that's shining through in the world. However, if it's not shining everywhere, even though by him it's a revelation of the infiniteness of Hashem, a revelation of Bleakville, since it's not shining into the whole world, it shows that there's still something which is missing. It's not the ultimate revelation of Hashem. It's not the ultimate Bleakville of Hashem. We'll stop here for today. We'll pick up tomorrow, Mr. Hashem. Thank you for joining. Everybody have a wonderful day.